hard to imagine just what a big star this particular gentleman was. He had a wonderful act, he made everybody feel warm and welcome, and on top of that, some might suggest he was the very first purveyor of this. That's right, karaoke, I kid you not. And on top of all of that, it was a royal favourite too. Let me explain. Morning, good to see you today. Thank you so much as ever for your time. Karaoke's a thing. Have you done it? Oh yes. They think, of course, it was all invented, don't they, literally in their period. But of course, karaoke has been around since the dawn of time. And in particular, it took off during the reign of King Edward, simply because the music halls were rife and stars like Vesta Tilley and Mary Lloyd encouraged the audiences to sing back to them, proving very successful in selling sheet music and making a lot of money for publishers. By, of course, the 1950s, it was coming back into fashion, all thanks to this man, the brilliant Max Bygraves. Now, for many people, you may not know who Max was, but of course he was an incredible royal favourite. And actually, his star ascended all thanks to two major Hollywood stars and an icon in the name of Judy Garland. You see, the bottom line was this, that Max had started out and was doing quite well, already appeared on some low bills at the Clapham Grand and places like that, and finally he got a spot in the prestigious London Palladium under the tutelage of the boss Val Parnell. But it was even bigger than that, because it's hard to imagine just how big these stars were that were coming over from America. These were the Hollywood greats that we'd only seen at the picture palaces, you know, the Gaumont, the Regals, that sort of stuff. And suddenly, right before your eyes, there they were. And these two were on the bill with Max. Yes, the brilliant comedians Abbott and Costello. Now, they were the new sort of Laurel and Hardy, were they not? And they were making their debut in 1950 in the summer at the London Palladium. To great fanfare, they went around meeting other comedians and doing all the usual publicity stuff. Now, where it gets really interesting is, and not many people know this, that the young princesses, Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret, were avid theatre goers, in particular variety. Princess Margaret loved a night out and loved to be made laugh, so she went to the Palladium quite a lot. And we mentioned to you before exactly how she sort of was beguiled by the Hollywood star Danny Kaye when he came over for a very successful stint in 1948, so much so appearing in front of His Majesty the King, King George. But it was these two that were suddenly taking her attention. She'd seen the movies at Buckingham Palace and at Windsor and thought they were absolutely terrific. And they were funny in their era, let's not forget. Abbott and Costello, Go to Mars, all of those great fun movies. And there they were, literally standing in the wings alongside a very young Max Bygraves. Now, Max Bygraves, as I said, wasn't the star at that particular point. He was making his break, and he was lucky enough to be able to say he was appearing in front of the eyes of the young princesses. But it gets more interesting at this point, you see, because Abbott and Costello are being asked would they be around or would they like to come back for that year's Royal Variety performance. Now, the main star of that particular show in the end ended up being Jack Benny, but originally, according to sources, it would have been Abbott and Costello. But they couldn't. They had a film commitment and they couldn't get out of it, and the studio was certainly not going to relinquish them to appear even in front of the British monarchy for free. They didn't get it back then that this was fabulous publicity. And the boys apparently thought, well, there will be another opportunity. Sadly, that didn't really come around. But it's fascinating to think, even back then, studios had no idea about how to market people. So off they went back after a successful 2-week stint at the London Palladium. Not box office breaking, but, you know, doing quite well. Back in Hollywood, they bumped into the superstar singer, that is, of course, the late and brilliant Judy Garland. And they raved about this particular young man because she was talking to them about her booking in April 1951 and getting as many tips as possible about how she could win over the British audiences. As if she needed to worry, but that was Judy. Now, fast forward, basically, they needed to fill the bill. And on that particular bill, they decided that Judy Garland was going to be ably supported by, yes, sing-along Max himself, Max Bygraves. Now, a great friendship was duly formed, and Max told me this himself at the Grand Theatre in Blackpool. He couldn't quite believe that he's standing alongside the brilliant Judy Garland. But he was, and he was a good success. Judy, of course, floored them and became an international vaudeville star once again. But as Judy tottered back over to America, he thought that was the end of the friendship. Oh no, not in Judy's eyes, all thanks to the fact that the royals once again had come to see Judy Garland and once again had praised Max Bygraves backstage. Judy had an idea. How about Max coming to the palace with her and performing literally in front of an American audience? Naturally, as he told me, he was incredibly nervous, but she thought his act would transfer very well. And as he pointed out, she liked people that she felt trusted and warmed around her. The rest, as they often say in the world of show business, is history. Max became a delightful storm over in the US, but sadly, American audiences weren't for him. He much preferred to literally perform over here in the United Kingdom, where he became a colossal star. He remained good friends with Judy Garland for the rest of her life, and he told me some incredible stories about Judy, and indeed that spectacular night when he found himself sandwiched in the corridor between a young Princess Margaret, Princess Elizabeth, and Judy Garland. And he said he didn't realise it could get any better than this. Only a few years before, he'd been performing to quite a few not big audiences up and down the United Kingdom. And he said the power of that combination really kick-started his career. Well, that and Abbott and Costello. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.